Hey guys, it's your buddy Choppadong here. We're going to do a quick MLB Made Easy video, but at the end, I'm going to show you a little twist I'm cooking up in the lab that's leading to a new number called Power Score. And it's going to hopefully identify which teams are most likely to go off. We're going to use a combination of W score, if you don't know what that is, IRT, implied run total, and maybe a little bit of that starting pitcher in the bullpen. See if we can't dig into something. This is in the very beginning stages. But if it leads down a good road and it continues to bring results, well, then I'll expand on it and I'll keep growing with it. And maybe we create a new K score and W score started just this way. If you don't know what those are before you click off of this video and run off into something else, they're in the chop shop here at the DFSarmy.com research station for MLB. K score, very simply, is strikeout potential, measuring a K percentage of a pitcher against the K percentage of the opposing team. It's a very good metric and a sliding scale that allows you to compare Freddie Peralta's potential today with Brady Singer compared to Cole Irvin or whoever it is that you're looking at. If a team faces a high strikeout team, if a pitcher faces a high strikeout team, that may be enough to bring that guy's own strikeout potential up and make him a viable pitching candidate for the slate. Usually, the cream rises to the top. Our top strikeout pitchers are always up there, but every once in a while, a cheaper guy will sneak into the mix, and that becomes a pretty good GPP target for MLB DFS. So if this type of stuff interests you, obviously down there in the description, you'll find links to our free Discord. You'll find links to becoming a VIP, open up every single sport, one-stop shopping with tools and coaching and contributions from a lot of different people as we build a community that is focused on you becoming a better DFS player and being able to swim with the sharks. It's what we do. Coupon code down in there too. So while you're down there, like and subscribe the video. And let's kind of dive in. I left off talking about K-score, but W-score is also very similar in that it concentrates on WOBA. So this is what we would use to determine the stacks that we like, because a high WOBA hitting offense going up against a pitcher that struggles with allowing a high WOBA against sort of stands to reason that the pitcher or the offense is in a good spot because the pitcher is going to struggle. What that typically does again is puts us on a sliding scale where I can sometimes a mediocre WOBA team and a mediocre WOBA pitcher is actually the best combination on the slate because everybody else is in a bad matchup one way or another. And comparing apples to apples is what allows us to look at the slate as a whole. And so this hyper simplified approach is something that I've incorporated for a couple of years, and it's had a lot of success in teaching people to be better players and getting them competitive, putting a fundamental system in place that allows you to start from scratch every single day, go through the paces, and come out with quality information. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to dive into the K-score first, now that we've sorted top to bottom. And the other thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you're dealing with just the slate you're looking at. Use the time filter here and use just the times of the slates that are the games that are on your slate. In this particular case, I knocked out everything that wasn't 7:05 and later, so I got just the early guys, and I kicked off Miami and St. Louis because they're not on that early slate. So that's what I'm dealing with. 6-game slate on Fanduel. Easy peasy. Slide over here, sort that K shop or that K score from top to bottom using our filter, using our sorting inside the research station, and you're going to see Freddie Peralta, Lucas Giolito, Tyler Miley, Scooble, Singer. These are the guys that are up at the top. They've all got great K scores over 500. Any one of these guys could pop off today, but your most likely candidates are up there at the top. And what I like to do is I like to take these numbers and I like to push them into comparing salaries and say, okay, 10,000 for Giolito. He's going to be one of the higher owned pitchers on the slate. Is Freddie Peralta actually better than him? In today's matchup, the 638 K score versus the 601, in my opinion, yes, save the $800. Roster Freddie Peralta. That puts Cincinnati in a bad spot. Now, we will have conflicting evidence. This may sway your opinion. If you look up the BVP numbers of of Cincinnati against Freddie Peralta, you will see some big thumpers in there. So what you're using in this case is you're using more generalized numbers of how Freddie Peralta does around the league to target Cincinnati, when that might be one of the rare cases where that's going to backfire because Cincinnati might own his shit. And if they do, this is not the best pitcher on the slate. You have to make that determination for yourself, though. I like to just kind of shut out as many variables as I can and roll with one system, which would put me on Freddie Peralta as the #1 pitcher. I might be wrong today. Okay, I can easily pivot down to a Lucas Giolito, spend a little bit more money, get a similar K score in a 601, or I can drop down even further, save $1,000 off of Peralta and go to Trevor Miley or Tyler Miley. 573 and a 638 is a big difference. I don't know that that's worth $1,000 to drop off that far. But if you don't like Peralta because of the BVP numbers, then Miley's probably a candidate because it's not much of a difference between the 601 and the 573 for the Giolito to Miley pivot, and that's a $2,000 pivot on Fanduel. $2,000, only 20 some odd points in K score. I'll make that trade. Now, will I in cash games? I don't know. I'm going to use a lot of ownership and use a lot of different things when it comes to cash games, floors and game logs, history, consistency, all that sort of stuff, and trying to determine who's the safest pitcher on the slate. This is not for that. This is usually for where you're going to take a little risk. 100-man leagues, 20-man leagues, single entry GPPs, weighted exposures in your MME builds, those types of things. This is where this technique works. And where it helps, it will shift your thinking around a little bit and sometimes get you off of those. Let's say we've got two $10,000 pitchers today, and you've taken $8,000 pitcher. You're slightly off in your build, and now all of a sudden you're building slightly different lineups than everybody else while you're still focused on the best bats on the slate. That is what makes you just different enough to possibly take down some tournaments. Okay, that's the stuff we talk about in the coaching sections at DFS Army all the time. If that's the type of information you're looking for, you need to become a VIP. But you might drop off a little bit more to a 557 and look at Scooble. But see, for $300 more than Tyler Miley, I'm not doing that. Plus, with Scooble, we've got a higher W score, which tells me Scooble is more prone to getting blown up. He's not safer. For $300 more than Tyler Miley, I'll take the small $300 discount, get the higher K score and the lower W score, and be more confident in the Tyler Miley pick. Okay, so you can go through this slate, bing, 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 and pick and choose and pick and choose and walk your way and think your way through the pitching. And that's all it really takes. It's all I need to do to determine which pitcher I'm going to key most heavily on today. And it's going to be Freddie Peralta or Lucas Giolito with a little bit of Tyler Miley, and the rest of the guys are kind of dead to me. Okay, it's not a big enough discount off of these guys to make me want to drop in K score. However, when I shift to my stacks, I kick over to the W score, and I look, Freeland jumps right to the top of the whopping 814. Only 4 games, but they haven't been good. Put San Diego in a really, really good spot. Maybe San Diego is reeling from the last 2 days at Coors where they've disappointed. Maybe people jump off the wagon, and maybe we catch them. It won't be low owned, but maybe catch them a smidge lower owned than they would be had they been posting 10-game outings. So maybe it's a smart place to go today. 688 is a big drop, 683, 658, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, down to these other guys. But that doesn't mean we won't target them. San Diego, Oakland, Kansas City, Colorado, Washington, maybe some Chicago White Sox. White Sox are struggling with the Tampa Bay pitching. They may be struggling with their own WOBA issues as a team that holds that number down. Whatever the case may be, it's not as strong a matchup theoretically as San Diego, Oakland, Kansas City, and Colorado. Okay, so these are the teams that I'm going to stack. Look at Cincinnati all the way down here. They're dealing with Freddie Peralta. Again, if they've got good BVP, you might change your thinking. Okay, but on paper, based on the way Peralta's performed around the league, this is a bad matchup for Cincinnati. Now, what we're going to do here is after we've pivoted off of our pitchers and our stacks, we're going to run into the trends, the hitting trends, and we're going to kick that time down again to just those early games. Or, yeah, just the early games by kicking off all of these others. Kick that 405 game off, too. Maybe we get lucky. Get rid of St. Louis and Miami. And now we're going to come over really quickly. We're going to knock these guys down really steep today because I want to show you what I was talking about at the beginning with the power score. So I'm going to cut down to a 0.430 or so just to really knock the top off. Okay. You might expand on that. You might go a little more. But see, like here, I want to knock this guy out of here. So I'm going to actually take this and filter off again, greater than 0.200. I will actually redo this a little bit, open it up a smidge. So we'll call it maybe 410. We'll see if we can't grow that list just a little bit more. There. And you can grow the list as big or small as you want, but basically by knocking that off, you're cutting down to those hottest hitters. 7 days The sample size is 7 days, generally, 30 to 50 at bats, and you're cutting down to the hottest hitters in the league. Randy Rosarena's hot, Otani, Grossman, Perez, Olson, McMahon, Chapman, Soler, Votto's hot again, Tyler O'Neill's hitting for power, Scope, Vogelbach. These are the hottest hitters in the league right now on today's slate, on today's early only slate. You're going to want to include them in your lineups. You're going to want to boost their projections. Their projections might be a little low, whatever. You're going to want to bring those up a little bit higher in your optimizers so that you get more of these hot bats in your lineups. Then when you're stacking, you might end up with a Robbie Grossman one-off or a Salvi Perez one-off. You've got a stack of, say, San Diego and Washington, and then a Salvador Perez one-off. That's going to be a strong lineup because Salvador Perez has the power to break the slate individually on his own. Okay? That's what this is going to do. It's going to build you those little bit more quality. We can use other techniques like ownership sliders and things in the domination station. We'll save those for different videos or the actual coaching that we do inside DFS Army. But I want to dive over and tell you about the power score and what we're doing, why we got these numbers or how we got these numbers. This is brand new. It's something that I just tinkered with and played with, but I am using implied run totals. Okay, coming out of Vegas, that's a combination of the money line and the over under, and it's a weighted sliding little bar saying this team's favored, they should score more. We cut it kind of like point spreads in NFL and implied scoring in NFL. Very similar concept, but we're going to give more power to who Vegas says should score most runs on the slate, which is San Diego. But what are we going to do? I like to equalize things. I like sliding scales. I like K-score that tells me a mediocre pitcher going up against a high strikeout team has more potential today than usual. I like things like W score where a low WOBA hitting team going up against a gas can of a pitcher actually becomes a mediocre stack on the slate instead of a bottom feeder. So these are the kinds of things that I like to compare and contrast and put things on level playing field. And this is sort of similar to what I'm going to do. I'm using the implied run total and I'm going to combine it with some of the numbers in our research station. I haven't developed anything completely perfectly yet, whether I'm using trends or overall numbers or what, but numbers like ERA of the starting pitcher, numbers like WHIP, Sierra, things like this. When the bad guys come up to the top, you can add those numbers in to that implied run total. And you might get a lower run total of a 3.8, but if it faces a gas can, if Kyle Freeland at a 6.0, in a Sierra or a 2 point whatever, you may add home run per 9 and whip together, get a 5.8. And if you add that number to the implied run total, you're going to see big, big, big numbers. Okay? Because you're getting the double dip. You're getting both the high implied run total out of Vegas and you're getting the big statistics backing up the starting pitching blows. You could throw in bullpen numbers. And we'll work on this, and we'll kind of play around. Bullpen numbers are probably in the batting tab, and you could find who you're looking for. Scroll back over this way into the bullpen and find home run per nines, fly ball per things like the Sierras for the bullpen. You could add the Sierra to the Sierra of the starting pitcher. And then you could add the home run per nines together and then add that to the implied run total. And you're going to get an all-encompassed number like a 125 for San Diego because San Diego is implied to score a lot of runs and they're facing a pitcher that has very, very high Sierra numbers as well as a bullpen that's, has some struggles. So when you add that stuff together, you get tops on the slate. And now when you do that the same for every single team on the slate, you can start seeing who's got the bigger numbers, who's got the bigger potential. Is it always going to work? Is it always going to work? Of course not. It's baseball. But what you see is you see break points. You can see that the two teams that have the most potential today are San Diego and Washington. They should be the most likely to go off. KC is in a good spot. A whole bunch of other teams in the upper 80s. Then a drop into the low 80s, the upper 70s. These teams you might not favor as much as these. And yeah, Cincinnati is not on this list and Chicago's way down here. But what you're looking at is you're looking at that opposing pitcher as well. So if you do see those BVP numbers, you may adjust this ranking. But just looking at this, judging by W score and judging by power score now, San Diego, Washington, KC, Oakland, Colorado are in the best spots. A little bit of LA, a little bit of Detroit. Detroit has some power potential today. Maybe a Jonathan Scope hits your radar. These are the types of things that are going to lead to those decisions in who you're going to key on in those optimizers and build better lineups. Anyway, quick in and out. This is Choppadong. That's your early slate. I'll put this together. We'll release it to everybody, hopefully with enough time to play games tonight. And we'll see you real soon. Peace.